Ya Rasulallah, Ya Rasulallah.
Here's my vision for the broader Middle East. It's also shaped in part by what we saw in the aftermath of World War II. After that war, America forged a security alliance in Europe to counter the growing Soviet threat. Likewise, America and Israel today can forge a security alliance in the Middle East to counter the growing Iranian threat.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has proposed forming a military alliance in the Middle East, similar to NATO. He calls it the Abraham Alliance and aims to unite countries that are at peace with Israel to counter the threat from Iran. Netanyahu highlighted the support Israel received from over a dozen countries during the Iranian attacks on April the 14th, suggesting this cooperation as a model for the new alliance. Don't forget, puppets like the United Arab Emirates, Jordan and Saudi Arabia aren't just opening their legs for Israel, but also providing their airspace and intelligence.
It will encourage other Arab states to normalize their relations with Israel. Now look at what happens when we make peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel. The whole Middle East changes.
But still, many Middle Eastern countries are unlikely to join this alliance. Since the start of the genocide against Gaza, thousands of Palestinians have been killed, leading to widespread condemnation and protests across the Arab world. Nations like Turkey have severed their ties with Israel and criticized its actions against Palestinians. Even though countries like the United Arab Emirates, Jordan and Egypt recognize Israel, they face internal and external pressure to distance themselves from Israel. Saudi Arabia also doesn't recognize Israel and has recently moved to normalize relations with Iran, which obviously complicates the formation of any alliance against Israel. Although it is possible, Saudi Arabia could be playing a double game. After all, they've been in bed with America for a long time. It's America which protects Saudi Arabia, and for the Saudis to be a free nation like Iran, it's almost impossible.
And I love the king, King Solomon, but I said, King, we're protecting you. You might not be there for 2 weeks without us. You have to pay for your military.
That's why we should all know about the hadith in Sahih Bukhari about the hypocrites running towards Dajjal for protection. Saudi Arabia, which oversees Mecca and Medina, is often criticized by many Muslims for actions perceived as hypocritical or not in line with Islamic values. Therefore, in the near future, the leadership, the Sheikhdom, may engage in alliances or actions that seem to contradict the teachings of Islam, which could be seen as aligning with the Dajjal's deceptive nature.
And I love the king, King Solomon, but I said, King, we're protecting you. You might not be there for 2 weeks without us. You have to pay for your military.
You see, my friends, in this scenario, the earthquakes in this hadith symbolize significant upheaval or crisis in Medina. These could be social, political, or spiritual upheavals that shake the very foundation of Saudi Arabia. These crises might lead to a purification process where those who are not true believers, exactly, yes, you've got it, the leadership, those who are hypocritical in their faith, are exposed and expelled from the Holy Land. Sahih Bukhari is very important to many Sunni Muslims, and many Sunni Muslims need to now wake up and identify the Dajjalic forces as forces from Saudi Arabia. Because this interpretation which I'm sharing here suggests that the leadership of Saudi Arabia will align with Dajjal-like forces, and the true believers among the people will resist and ultimately prevail. They will reject the leadership's hypocrisy and strive to uphold true Islamic values. This resistance and purification could be seen as fulfilling the prophecy of Medina being cleansed of non-believers and hypocrites during the times of trial.
All countries that are at peace with Israel and all those countries who will make peace with Israel should be invited to join this alliance. We saw a glimpse of that potential alliance on April 14th. Led by the United States, more than half a dozen nations worked alongside Israel to help neutralize hundreds of missiles and drones launched by Iran against us. Thank you, President Biden, for bringing that coalition together.
Netanyahu's latest speech in America compared the potential Middle Eastern alliance to NATO. Comparing this proposed alliance to NATO is problematic. NATO has a trail of bombing many countries. Countries like Yugoslavia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, Somalia, mostly Muslim nations. Also, a very important point, many Arab countries don't actually welcome the behavior of a military bloc in Ukraine. So it's going to be very difficult for Netanyahu to convince a Middle Eastern NATO-like alliance against Iran.
مسئله غزه همچنان مسئله اول دنیای اسلام. قدرت مقاومت روز به روز بیشتر خودش داره نشان میده. یک دستگاه با عظمت نظامی و سیاسی و اقتصادی مثل آمریکا پشت سر رژیم غاصب صهیونیست دارن با یک گروه مقاومت می جنگن، نتوانستن اینها رو به زانو در بیارن.
My dear friends, for Muslim nations, aligning with such proposals contradicts the teachings of Islam, which warns us against forming alliances with those who commit injustice. This isn't just in the Hadith, but the most important text in Islam, the Quran, which commands us to speak against injustice. In the context of Israel's genocide in Gaza, many see Netanyahu's proposal as aligning with the oppressors, reminiscent of the deception associated with Dajjal in Islamic eschatology. Thanks for listening to the Independent Islamic Republic. Have a wonderful night.